Week 1 isn't officially over, but it's already time to look forward to Week 2 and who you may want to pick up off the waiver wire. So we went through a few names that popped on Sunday that might be worth picking up when it comes to Tuesday or Wednesday of this week. We will start in Indianapolis. Naheem Heinz was a guy that we talked about during the season as having the potential to have a 10-catch game. Certainly didn't think he would have the game he did in Week 1. Some of it was because of the way the game went. Some of it was because, unfortunately, Marlon Mack suffered an Achilles injury, and the Colts fear that he may be lost for the season. But Kimmy, now all of a sudden, Naheem Heinz is a guy that maybe was talked about in some kind of hipster circles. He's a name that I think a lot of people are going to need to know going forward because it looks like the workload is going to get a lot bigger for him.
I think this entire offseason we've talked about, is it Marlon Mack or is it Jonathan Taylor? And then Naheem Heinz popped out and said, "Hi, I'm here. It's me." He played 54% of the snaps, having us kind of scratch our heads over what do we do about this Marlon Mack, Jonathan Taylor situation. The news just broke a few hours ago that Marlon Mack is now out for the rest of the season with an Achilles injury. So this just goes to show Naheem Heinz should be the #1 priority on the waiver wire this week. Jonathan Taylor also had flashes of opportunity. I do not want to discount that, but I think Naheem's time, having a little bit more of that veteran experience, proves all good things.
Well, and as you mentioned, unfortunately, Marlon Mack lost for the season, which is definitely disappointing, certainly for him. And a guy who looked like he was going to have some opportunity there in Indianapolis. This was always sort of set up to be a committee system. We thought it was going to be Taylor and Mack, as you mentioned. But Heinz was always sort of the wild card because of his pass catching ability and because of the fact that few quarterbacks throw to their running backs as often as Phillip Rivers does. We saw that with Austin Eckler for those years with the Chargers, and now Heinz could sort of occupy that role there for the Colts. I still like Jonathan Taylor. I still think he's going to get plenty of opportunity, but Naheem Heinz is going to be a very popular name off the waiver wire in the weeks or so to come. A couple other names at running back you might want to pay attention to. Malcolm Brown, who got a lot of work there with the Los Angeles Rams on Sunday night. I mean, he looked very good. I still think Cam Akers steps in to get some opportunity, but Malcolm Brown certainly did a lot with what we saw there on Sunday night. Hey, look, man, 79 yards, 2 touchdowns. I mean, Kimmy, if everybody was sort of trying to pick their favorite Rams running back, I will tell you that I sort of chose wrong with Darrell Henderson. But Malcolm Brown, at least for the short term, he looks like he's the guy, huh?
I love it. I think he does. And, that was an incredible Rams game, right? It was the first game in SoFi Stadium in Hollywood Park here in Los Angeles. They went up against the Cowboys, and they looked good. I think Malcolm Brown had flashes, and who also had flashes of opportunity? It was Van Jefferson. So I do think that there are a few guys on that team that you could target on the waiver wire who could be potential, incredible additions for your fantasy roster.
Yeah, other guy that will play in SoFi Stadium, did not yesterday, but Joshua Kelly for the Los Angeles Chargers. I mean, we talk about what Austin Eckler did with the Chargers while Phillip Rivers was there. Well, Melvin Gordon's out. Eckler moves up the pecking order 1, and now Josh Kelly steps in behind him. He gets in the end zone yesterday, and I sort of joked that will Joshua Kelly do to Austin Eckler what Austin Eckler did to Melvin Gordon? But I think the more accurate description is that Joshua Kelly may step in more to that Melvin Gordon role. He may not get the same number of snaps that Gordon did, but he's going to be a guy that they use as sort of that hammer down near the goal line. We saw that yesterday. Eckler played still the vast majority of the snaps. Didn't get a target, or got 1 target, I should say, which was a little bit frustrating. But Joshua Kelly stepped in a big way and had a pretty quick start to his season. Another running back that surprised people, James Robinson, the undrafted free agent down there in Jacksonville. And Kimmy, certainly very few people knew his name. Even in football circles, people didn't quite know James Robinson's name. I feel like now that we've hit Monday morning, a lot more people are starting to figure out who this guy is.
It's funny. I'm curious to go on Google and see James Robinson, Jacksonville Jaguars, his name Googled last week, as opposed to this Monday after last night's performance. He broke the record for undrafted rookie performances in Week 1, racking up 62 yards on 16 carries and adding 1 catch on 1 target for 28 yards. Now, none of those numbers are crazy, right? No one's running out to grab him and start him next week. But Chris Thompson only had 2 targets, and Robinson was the only running back on that offense to even receive a carry on Sunday. So I think it's good things. And guess what? Last Sunday, or I guess yesterday, holy cow, it's already yesterday, he was not owned in 99% of NFL.com leagues. He was available in 99% of all NFL.com leagues. So if you're hearing this, if you're seeing this, you should go run and try to swoop him up as fast as you can.
Yeah, I suspect that number is going to change quite a bit in the next couple of days. But hey, kudos to you. You had him as a sleeper earlier in the week. So yeah, take another quick victory lap. We'll wait it out while you come back. um, So James Robinson there's some other names down there in Jacksonville that certainly opened some eyes. Leviska Chennault, who was a guy that I loved coming out of Colorado, thought could be a jack of all trades. He did line up everywhere. He lined up wide. He lined up sort of in a tight end. He was in the backfield. They ran Wildcat with Leviska Chennault. He has the opportunity really to get some chances there in this offense. He started alongside DJ Chark in week 1 against the Colts. Keep in mind, this may not be a high volume passing game, so there may not be a ton of targets for Chennault on a week-to-week basis, but because, as you see there, he's getting direct snaps. They're lining him up in different spots. They're going to try to use him as a Swiss Army knife, the same way he was used at the University of Colorado. Opportunity is the lifeblood of fantasy success, and Leviska Chennault should get plenty of it down there in Jacksonville. And one last name for you, Jaylen Rager, who I have become a part of the Jaylen Rager hive. And apparently there are people on Twitter who don't like me using the term hive. I don't know. As somebody who's part of the beehive, though, I'm sure.
I was gonna say, I don't know if you want to ever reference anything hive related unless you're part of the beehive and you're talking about how much you love Beyonce. That's like, those are waters that you do not want to enter.
Well, I will say I am a stan for Jaylen Rager. I'm waving the flag. I don't know. I'm a Rager racer. I don't know. I'm gonna come up with something. But either way, I'm really starting to buy in. I know he didn't have a ton of looks on Sunday. Did have one big catch for 55 yards. But I think there's opportunity for him there. The reports out of Philadelphia about him during training camp were glowing. And I do think that he's going to step up and produce, especially if they continue to have injuries. Desean Jackson missed a portion of yesterday's game. We're not sure exactly, what the long-term health is going to be for guys like Alshon Jeffrey and what have you in that offense there. So I'm excited about what Jaylen Rager can possibly do. So of all those guys we listed now, which one do you feel like should be everyone's top waiver priority this week?
The waiver priority, it's still going to have to be Naheem Heinz, right? If we talk about this Marlon Mack injury, he's out for the season. They're going to need help. We are both incredibly excited about all the opportunity that Jonathan Taylor is going to see. But if you had to prioritize the number one person, it's going to be Heinz for me.
Yeah, no, I would completely agree with that. I do think Naheem Heinz is the guy who slides in and gets a whole lot of work. I would say keep an eye on Joshua Kelly. I think what we saw out of him yesterday was very encouraging. After the game, head coach Anthony Lynn said, look, we don't win that game if it's not for Joshua Kelly, and I think that means he's going to get some opportunities. The thing we know about the Chargers is there's a 1 and there's a 2, and there's not a whole lot of muddling between there. So it looks like Kelly has won that number 2 job from Justin Jackson. So I do think he's going to get a lot of chances to score, and especially if he's getting work down near the goal line.